Hi everyone, this is Amanda Ridout, health coach, and today is the first interview of a series of interviews we'll be having on skincare, and I am interviewing my very good friend, Ben Fuchs. And how you doing, Ben?
I'm doing great, Amanda. Good to see you. Your skin looks beautiful.
Thank you very much.
How come? How
Well,
come?
last time we saw each other, you gave me a few tips, and I've been following them.
Such as? Give me a couple.
What I did is I take yogurt and sugar, and
Yep.
I've been using that as a mask.
All right.
And then after that, on a cotton pad, I do the apple cider vinegar.
Stinky a little bit, right?
Very stinky, and it actually stings. But then after that, I put my whatever serum on it, and man, I've noticed the difference in the lines in my face.
That's awesome. Well, you hit on the two most important things you could do for the skin, right? The two most important things you could do to keep your skin healthy, and that is number one, exercise it. I'll tell you what I mean by that in a second. And number two, feed it and nourish it. Those are the two most important things you could do, not just for your skin, but for your whole body. You know, we all know about exercise, right? If you want to be strong, you want to be healthy, what do you got to do? Obviously, you got to exercise, right? But it's not just exercise. You also have to take care of your nutrition. And it's the simultaneity, it's doing these two things at the same time that accounts for the results that you get in terms of building muscle, getting stronger, getting fit, getting toned when you go to the gym. You work out weights, you run, you do your exercise, and then you come home and do your nutrients. And these two things have to happen together. In fact, the closer you can do your nutrients to your exercise, the closer you can nourish to your stress period, the more effective your nutrients, the more effective your whole healthcare program is going to be. The more effective your exercise will be, and the more effective your nutritional supplementation will be. And the beautiful thing about the skin is it's the same thing. You got to exercise the skin, and then you got to nourish the skin. So you should be asking me, what does that mean to exercise the skin? That's the most obvious question, right?
Yes.
What does that mean?
What do we do? How do we exercise our skin?
How do we exercise the skin? So we'll make this little video today, a short video about exercising the skin, okay? And then we'll talk about nourishment in our next video, perhaps.
Absolutely.
So when we exercise, when we lift weights, what are we really doing to our body? Say we'll take doing arm curls as an example. Say you do arm curls. What are you really doing to your biceps when you do a curl?
We're stressing them out, right?
Stressing the muscle, exactly. You're actually traumatizing the muscle. And you don't want to over-traumatize it, but you're actually putting a burden or a stress on it. But what's the response of the bicep when you put the stress on the muscle? What's the response of the bicep to the trauma? It's hypertrophy, technically. Hyper means a lot, trophy means movement, a lot of movement, hypertrophy, which we call growth. In other words, you build your muscles by putting a burden on them, by stressing them, by traumatizing them. This is what exercise really is. It's a controlled trauma that results in growth. Well, the skin is the same thing. The skin, the bulk of the skin is a type of tissue called connective tissue, which is not exactly like muscle tissue, but along the same lines. And the same response that you get when you stress muscle tissue, you get with stressing connective tissue. So what we want to do when I say exercise the skin, we want to stress the skin. We want to put a burden on the skin. In fact, we want to traumatize the skin. We want to exploit this idea that when the body is traumatized, in a controlled sense, not in an out-of-control, chaotic trauma, but in a controlled trauma sense, the body responds by growth. And it's not just the body, it's the brain, it's the spirit, it's the mind, it's plants. It's everything that's alive responds to this idea of controlled trauma. There's a guy who wrote named Nassim Taleb, T-A-L-E-B, and he wrote a book called Anti-Fragile. And he hypothesizes that there's three types of systems. One is a system that he calls a fragile system, and that's a system that breaks when you put stress into it. And then there's a non-fragile system, and that's a system that doesn't break when you put stress on them. And then he invented this third type of system he calls an anti-fragile system. It's not fragile, it's not non-fragile, it's anti-fragile. And he identifies or describes an anti-fragile system as a system that grows when it is stressed. And he points out all the different types of systems in life, in our reality, that are anti-fragile. Plants are anti-fragile. They grow when they have stress. Muscles are anti-fragile. Economic systems, cultures, when they're stressed, if they're stressed in a controlled fashion, evolve and grow. It's all part of something, by the way, called systems theory, which is a really high-tech kind of physics that we started to really understand in the last 30 or 40 years. The basic idea being when a system has just the right amount of stress on it, it grows. And the skin is the same way. When I say exercise the skin, I mean put a stress on the skin. So your next question should be, how do you put a stress on the skin?
Yes, how do you put a stress
Right?
on the skin?
How do you put a stress on the skin? There's different ways to do it. You mentioned one really great way, and that's with sugar and salt. And this puts a stress on the skin.
Okay.
You can use enzymes to put a stress on the skin. You could use a loofah pad. You can use a washcloth. And for many years, women have done something called dry brushing, where they actually take a brush and they brush the skin. And that puts a kind of stress on the skin. But for me, as a pharmacist and as a medicinal chemist and as a skincare chemist, my favorite way to put a stress on the skin is to use something called alpha hydroxy acids. Alpha hydroxy acids are a family of chemical compounds. They're found throughout nature, plants, and your skin makes them and your body makes them. They're found pretty much everywhere in nature. You probably heard of something called glycolic acid and lactic acid, and there's various ones that are found in wine, and you mentioned vinegar, and yogurt contains them, and dairy products contain these alpha hydroxy acids, and as I say, they're in your skin. When you put them on top of your skin, they have this ability to dissolve the sticky substance that holds dead skin cells in place. And when this sticky substance is dissolved, the dead skin cells flop off, and new cells come to the top. And this is the very definition of exercise. Old stuff gets broken down, new stuff comes to the top. This is what I mean when I say exercise the skin. The alpha hydroxy acids are so unique in the world of stressing the skin, in the world of ingredients that stress the skin, because they have a double feature. Not only do they dissolve the glue that holds dead skin cells in place, thereby increasing the flopping off or the sloughing off of these cells, but they also acidify the skin. They lower the pH of the skin, and the skin loves low pH. Low pH triggers the growth response, much the same way as when you're lifting weights and you feel the burn. And you know how you feel the burn? The burn is an example of low pH, and we all know that when you feel the burn, you get a better workout, because low pH tells the body or the skin or cells in the body that there's a burden, and the body needs to grow in order to be able to handle that burden. So with alpha hydroxy acids, you get a 1-2 punch, I call it. Number one, you get a sloughing off of dead skin, stimulating the growth of new skin. And number two, you get a drop in pH, which tells the skin that it needs to grow. When I say tells the skin it needs to grow, I mean not just cells, I mean the fibers that hold the skin intact. And those fibers would go by the name collagen and elastin. You probably heard of those. Those are the fibers that keep your skin looking young and smooth and taut. And when you mention how your fine lines are improving, that's exactly what will happen. And this is a very important point. I know we want to make this short, and I know we went a little bit long, but this is a very important point, because when it comes to taking care of the skin, there's two ways to take care of the skin. There's two types of results that you want to get when you take care of your skin. One is an instant result. You want your skin to look good after you put your product on, after you use your product. But even more fundamentally, you want your skin to look good in the long haul, over the course of days and weeks and months. And that's the beautiful thing about alpha hydroxy acids, is you get an instant result because they're helping flop off or slough off dead skin cells off the surface. So you get a smoother look to the skin. You get an immediate sort of I don't want to say tightening, but an immediate youthful appearance, a smoother, tauter look to the skin. That's immediate. But in the long run, because of this drop in pH, because it's increasing the acidity, you increase the growth of all these connective tissue fibers, the collagen and the elastin, and that's where you really start to notice the results. So when you're using your apple cider vinegar or your yogurt or your alpha hydroxy acid, you can use wine, or you can use lemon juice, or you can buy an alpha hydroxy acid product. You want to look for two types of results. You want to look for short-term results, which is as soon as you use your product, you get this beautiful kind of soft look to your skin and a smooth look to your skin. And then the long-term results over the course of days and weeks and months, you'll start to notice fine lines are starting to improve and you're not wrinkling as fast. And even better, people will start to notice. They'll be like, Amanda, what are you doing to your skin? It looks so good. But keep in mind, there's that second half that has to take place. You don't want to just traumatize or stimulate or be aggressive on the skin without doing the second half, which is driving the nutrients into the skin. And we could talk about that on our next video, how you do that.
Okay, and that's wonderful. Let me just ask you this question on the on what you just said. Is this trauma per se on my skin? Is this something I want to do daily? Do I want to do the sugar scrubs?
Great question. Do you want to go to the gym every day?
I don't.
Well, okay. All right. Do you think you should go to the gym every day?
Yes, to a certain extent. I should be moving and exercising my body.
Let me rephrase that.
You know
when you work out,
Yeah.
are your muscles growing when you're lifting weights?
No, I'm breaking
When
them
are they
down.
growing?
When
When
I
are they growing?
rest.
When you're resting.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Yes.
it's remember this is an analogy that is complete. Everything that's true about the body when you're lifting weights is going to be true about the skin when you're using
Okay.
these kinds of stressful, and I don't even want to say the word trauma because that sounds scary.
Yeah.
But these kinds of aggressive procedures on the skin, your skin's not growing when you're using your alpha hydroxy acids. Your skin is growing on the days off.
Okay.
So you have to understand how to utilize or exploit your rest periods. You don't want to overtrain when you're working out, and you don't want to overtreat when you're using skincare products. So understanding how much rest is appropriate for your skin is very important because you don't want to undertreat either.
Right.
You know, you don't want to do it too little, you don't want to do it too much. There's a sweet spot, and you got to know where that sweet spot is. How do you know where the sweet spot is? You look for signs of irritation, of redness. Your skin just isn't going to look so good. So you take some time off, or you go with a weaker dose if you need to go with a weaker dose. If you're using, and we should probably talk about the types of doses. The strength of an alpha hydroxy acid product is measured by the pH of that product. So the pH is going to be, your pH is a measurement of acidity. The pH scale goes from 0 to 14, where 0 is very, very acid, 14 is very, very non-acid, 7 is neutral. Your skin is right around maybe 4 to 6-ish, 4 to 5.5, which is slightly acidic. 7 is neutral, lower than 7 is acidic. 0 is very acidic. Your skin is like around 4-ish, maybe 4.5. So we say the skin is slightly acidic. Where you want your alpha hydroxy acid product to be is around 3 or 3.5. Okay. When you start getting close to 4, your skin isn't going to feel it because that's where your skin normally is. Right. So a good alpha hydroxy acid product is going to be around 3-ish, 3.5. Apple cider vinegar is right around 3. So if you find that your skin is not looking as good as it might, you can either take more days off, or you can use an alpha hydroxy acid product that has a higher pH. Or you can take your apple cider vinegar and maybe alkalinize it. Make it a little higher pH, put a little baking soda in your apple cider vinegar, and that will make it weaker. That will make it less acidic. Okay. Baking soda is highly alkaline. By putting a little bit of baking soda in your apple cider vinegar, you'll see the little fizz when you do it, and that's a sign that the alkaline is reacting with the acid and it's raising the pH. So you can just kind of play around. You don't have to, if you want, you get yourself some pH paper and actually stick it in. Have you ever seen pH paper? You actually stick it in and it turns a certain color, and you can actually take the pH of your alpha hydroxy acid, your apple cider vinegar, your wine, your lemon juice, or perhaps you even want to buy a product like at a salon. You could buy products, but keep in mind, salon products are very often been weakened and diluted. Department store products, those are the worst. You really never want to buy a department store product. But a salon product, those are pretty much going to be your most effective skincare products. But many times they've been attenuated or weakened a little bit because manufacturers of these products don't want people to overuse them. So whatever kind of product you're using, you can take the pH, or you can just test it out and see how it works on your face. But to answer your question, you do want to take days off. How many days off is going to be up to you. You got to look at your skin, see how it is. If you don't want to take days off, you can use weaker product by putting a little baking soda in your alpha hydroxy acid.
Okay. And just so that we don't leave anybody hanging and not knowing what to do on those resting days, what would you suggest?
What do you do?
Yeah, a good cleanser.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about cleansers.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that on our next video.
Then that is a good reason for everybody to tune in next week. Okay. We are really going to try to do these weekly, and it's just us talking about skincare and trying to get to the bottom of beautiful, healthy, glowing skin.
That's awesome. Good deal, man. It's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.